The halls of the Orion embassy were never truly silent, until now. Ryan Solis moved through the echoing corridors, the soles of his boots clicking against polished obsidian tiles. Outside, the city's crystalline towers shimmered beneath the pale blue sun, but inside the air was thick with dread. The message had come at dawn, transmitted on every frequency. Earth disengages, all ties severed, effective immediately. No explanation, no negotiation, just a cold final decree. Rian had been in the middle of a routine briefing with Ambassador Ithara of the Shalkai when the lights flickered and every comm device in the room blared the same 6 words. Ithara's silver eyes had widened in shock, her tendrils curling in agitation. "What does this mean, Ambassador Solis?" she demanded, but Ryan had no answer. Now, hours later, the embassy was deserted. Data slates abandoned on conference tables, half-finished cups of tea cooling beside them. The security staff had already departed, following the recall order that had come moments after the broadcast. Only Ryan remained, tasked with overseeing the closure and, unofficially, gathering what intelligence he could before the doors were sealed for good. As he passed the great mural in the entrance hall, a swirling depiction of humanity's first contact with the Union, Rian felt a pang of regret. He'd spent decades building bridges here, learning the nuances of alien customs, mediating disputes that had once seemed insurmountable. And now, with a single transmission, it was all undone. His comm chirped. Ryan hesitated, then answered. The face that appeared was not human, but he recognized it instantly. Counselor Vesh, the Union's chief negotiator, her skin a deep emerald, her gaze piercing. "Ambassador Solis," she said, voice clipped. "I trust you are aware of the situation." "As much as anyone, Counselor," Rian replied, keeping his tone neutral. "I await further instructions." Vesh's eyes narrowed. "There are rumors, Ambassador. Some say Earth has discovered a threat. Others believe this is a prelude to war. Which is it?" Rian chose his words carefully. "I have no knowledge of any threat, nor any intention of war. But I am no longer authorized to speak for my government." "Convenient," Vesh said, her lips curling in something like a sneer. "The Union will not tolerate such ambiguity. We demand answers." Before Ryan could respond, the line went dead. The embassy's power grid flickered, then dropped to emergency reserves. The doors locked with a heavy thunk, sealing him inside. Outside, the city was in uproar. Union security forces had cordoned off the human quarter and crowds gathered in, the streets shouting questions in a dozen languages. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some claimed Earth's leaders had been assassinated, others whispered of alien infiltration. Rian retreated to his office, locking the door behind him. He activated the secure terminal, entering the last codes he would ever use here. A single message awaited him, marked with the highest encryption. "Destroy all classified materials. Await extraction." He hesitated, fingers hovering over the destruct command. Every instinct told him something was wrong. This wasn't just a diplomatic spat. There was a pattern, a precision to the withdrawal that suggested planning, not panic. He began to scan the embassy's internal logs, searching for anomalies. It didn't take long to find them. A series of encrypted transmissions, routed through back channels, all originating from a single source on Orion. Someone outside the embassy, but with access to human codes. Before he could dig deeper, an alarm blared. The embassy's security grid had been breached. Rian's heart pounded as he checked the cameras. A squad of Union enforcers was forcing its way inside, weapons drawn. He had minutes, maybe less. Rian grabbed a data chip, downloading everything he could. As he slipped it into his jacket, he heard the heavy thud of boots in the corridor. He ducked out the back, slipping through a maintenance hatch he'd memorized years ago. The city outside was chaos. Union patrols swept the streets, searching for any sign of human presence. Rian kept to the shadows, moving with practiced caution. He needed to reach the extraction point, a disused maglev station on the city's outskirts. If he could get there, he might still escape. As he moved, he caught snatches of conversation. They say Earth's fleet has gone dark. No signals, no patrols. My cousin on Vayari Prime says the markets are collapsing. Do you think the humans will attack? The fear was palpable. Ryan knew it would only get worse. At the Maglev station, he found his contact, a small insectoid being named Fel, who had once owed Ryan a favor. You're late, Fel hissed, antennae twitching. Union security is everywhere, Ryan replied, glancing over his shoulder. Can you get me out? Fel nodded, producing a set of forged travel documents. This will get you to the spaceport. After that, you're on your own. Ryan slipped him a credit chip. Thank you, Fel. If I make it out, I'll find a way to repay you. As the maglev hummed to life, Ryan allowed himself a moment of hope. But as the city receded behind him, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was running from more than just political fallout. Something deeper was at play, something that threatened not just his career, but the fragile peace of the entire galaxy. And as the maglev sped into the night, Ryan Solis vowed to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The hum of the Ember's Edge was a comfort to Captain Zara El-Masri, even as the galaxy outside threatened to tear itself apart. The ship's corridors glowed with soft amber light, the air thick with tension. Zara stood on the command deck, eyes fixed on the swirling nebulae beyond the viewport, her hands clasped behind her back. The withdrawal order had come through in the middle of a routine patrol along the border of human and Union space. One moment, her crew was trading jokes and running diagnostics. The next, every human vessel received the same encrypted message. Earth disengages. All ties severed. Effective immediately. The bridge had fallen silent, the weight of the words pressing on every soul aboard. Zara had served the fleet for 15 years, rising through the ranks with a reputation for calm under fire, but nothing in her training had prepared her for this. A galaxy on the brink, alliances crumbling, and her own government suddenly silent. Status report, she called, her voice steady despite the dread gnawing at her gut. Lieutenant Juno Park, her communications officer, glanced up from her console. Still no contact from command, Captain. All channels are dark except for the automated recall loop. Zara nodded. Any movement from the Union patrols? Yes, ma'am, replied Ensign Malik, the tactical officer. The coalition corvette Vera is holding position just outside our sensor range. They're not making any aggressive moves, but they're watching us. Zara's lips tightened. The Vera had been a familiar sight during joint patrols. Its captain, a stoic Vayari named Orlis, had once shared stories and laughter with her over cups of synth tea. Now, every gesture was loaded with suspicion. Keep shields at standby. No weapons lock, Zara ordered. We're not here to start a war. The bridge crew nodded, but she could sense their unease. The Ember's Edge was a sturdy frigate, fast and well-armed. But against the full might of the Union fleet, they were a spark in a storm. Zara retreated to her ready room, the door hissing shut behind her. She allowed herself a moment to breathe, to let the mask of command slip. On her desk, a hollow frame displayed a looping image of her family, her wife Lena and their 2 children, smiling on a sunlit beach back on Earth. The sight brought a pang of longing and fear. What was happening at home? Were they safe? Her thoughts were interrupted by a chime. Captain, you're needed on the bridge, came Juno's voice, strained. Zara straightened her uniform and strode back to the command deck. Report. The Vera is hailing us, Juno said, fingers dancing over the controls. It's Captain Orlis. Zara took a steadying breath. On screen, the viewport shimmered, and Orlis's angular face appeared, his silver eyes unreadable. Captain El-Masri, he began, voice formal. By order of the Union High Command, you are instructed to stand down and prepare for boarding. Your ship will be inspected for contraband and unauthorized technology. Zara kept her tone cool. With respect, Captain Orlis, we are in human space. You have no authority here. Orlis's expression hardened. The situation has changed. Your government's actions have destabilized the border. We cannot risk a rogue element. Zara's jaw clenched. Ember's Edge will not permit boarding. Any attempt will be considered an act of aggression. The screen flickered as Orlis weighed his response. I urge you to reconsider, Zara. I do not wish for bloodshed. Nor do I, she replied, her voice softening. But I have my orders. The channel closed, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Tactical. Monitor their movements, Zara said quietly. If they power up weapons, I want to know. Malik nodded, eyes glued to his display. For hours, the standoff dragged on. The Ember's Edge and the Vera drifted in uneasy proximity, each waiting for the other to make a move. The crew grew restless, whispers of fear and frustration echoing through the corridors. In the mess hall, Chief Engineer Lian Wu tried to lighten the mood, cracking jokes as she distributed mugs of strong coffee. Remember that time we outmaneuvered a pirate flotilla in the Orion Belt? She said, grinning. This is nothing compared to that. Her words drew a few nervous chuckles, but the tension remained. Zara made her rounds, offering quiet reassurances. She stopped by the medical bay, where Dr. Ahmet Okoro was tending to a crewman with a sprained wrist. How's morale? Zara asked, keeping her voice low. Emmett shrugged. They're scared, Captain, we all are, but they trust you. Zara managed a faint smile. Thank you, Doctor. She returned to the bridge just as an alert blared, a proximity warning. Captain, the Vera is launching drones, Malik reported. They're scanning our hull. Zara's eyes narrowed. Raise shields to 20%, passive only. Let them see we're not defenseless. The tension ratcheted higher as the drones buzzed around the Ember's Edge, their sensors probing for weaknesses. Zara watched the tactical display, heart pounding. Suddenly, the comms console crackled with static. Juno frowned, tapping controls. We're picking up a signal. Encrypted. Not Union standard. Zara leaned over her shoulder. Can you isolate it? Trying, Juno replied, fingers flying. It's weird. Almost like it's piggybacking on the Union's drone feed. The signal resolved into a burst of data, an old Earth code, heavily modified. Zara's eyes widened as she recognized the signature. It was a distress beacon, but not from any ship she knew. Where's it coming from? She demanded. Juno shook her head. It's bouncing between the drones. I think someone's using them to relay the message. Zara's mind raced. Was this a trap, a warning, or something else entirely? Download everything, she ordered. We'll analyze it later. Before they could act, the Vera's engines flared. They're moving to intercept, Malik warned. Zara made a split-second decision. Helm, full burn, evasive pattern delta. Get us clear of their range. The Ember's Edge surged forward, engines roaring. The Vera responded, matching their course. They're locking weapons, Malik said, voice tight. Zara's heart hammered. Prepare countermeasures. Do not fire unless fired upon. The two ships danced through the void, weaving between asteroids and debris fields. The Vera's drones closed in, their sensors probing, searching for a weakness. Suddenly, a burst of energy lanced out from the Vera, an ion pulse aimed at the Ember's Edge's engines. Evasive! Zara shouted. The ship lurched as the pulse grazed their shields, sending a shower of sparks across the bridge. Return fire, disable only, she ordered. Malik fired a spread of EMP torpedoes, targeting the Vera's propulsion array. The torpedoes struck true, sending the Vera spinning, its engines flickering. They're dead in the water, Juno reported. Zara exhaled, relief mingling with guilt. She hadn't wanted this, but she couldn't let her crew be captured. Status, she asked. Minimal damage, Leon reported from engineering. Shields holding, engines at 80%. Zara nodded. Plot a course for the nearest jump point. We're getting out of here. As the Ember's Edge limped away, Zara replayed the encrypted message. It contained fragments of data, coordinates, names, warnings. Someone was trying to reach her, to warn her of something bigger than a border skirmish. In her quarters, Zara pored over the data with Juno and Leon. The message spoke of a shadow operation, a hidden hand manipulating both sides, references to a fracture protocol and a list of targets, her ship among them. This isn't just about Earth and the Union, Leon said, brow furrowed. Someone wants a war. Zara nodded grimly. And they're willing to kill anyone who gets in the way. The realization chilled her to the bone. She had to warn Command, but with communications down, she was on her own. "We need to find out who's behind this," Zara said, determination hardening her voice. "And we need to survive long enough to tell someone." As the embers, Edge slipped into the jump corridor. Zara felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She was no longer just a captain. She was a witness, a guardian of a secret that could decide the fate of the galaxy. The jump drive engaged, and the stars stretched into lines of light. Behind them, the border burned with the first sparks of war. The rain on Galen's Rest was relentless, turning the market plazas into a maze of neon reflections and shimmering puddles. Timo Varian moved through the crowds with practiced ease, his hood drawn low, a battered datapad clutched in one hand. The world was supposed to be neutral ground, a place where Union and human traders still exchanged goods, even as the galaxy fractured. But tonight, tension hung in the air like static before a storm. Timo had always been a watcher, not a fighter. His job was patterns, sifting through the endless streams of data that flowed through Galen's Rest, finding the anomalies, the hidden signals. It was thankless work, but it paid well, and it kept him out of the line of fire. Or so he thought. He ducked into a narrow alley away from the main thoroughfare and tapped a sequence on his datapad. Encrypted lines of code danced across the screen, resolving into a message fragment he'd intercepted only hours ago. It was a ghost in the system, a transmission that shouldn't exist, bouncing between abandoned satellites and old relay stations. The more Timo dug, the more certain he became. Someone was orchestrating the chaos, nudging both sides toward war. His comm buzzed. "Varian, you there?" The voice was low, urgent. His friend and sometime source, a slicer named Real. "I'm here," Timo whispered, glancing over his shoulder. "Did you get the rest of the packet?" "Yeah, but you're not going to like it. Meet me at the old transit hub. And be careful. There's movement on the feeds. Someone's watching." The line went dead. Timo tucked the datapad into his coat and slipped back into the crowd, heart pounding. The old transit hub was a relic from the early days of Galen's Rest, a place where secrets changed hands and deals were struck in the shadows. If Ryle was spooked, things were worse than he'd thought. He reached the hub just as the rain intensified, sheets of water cascading from the broken roof. Ryle was waiting in a corner, her eyes scanning the darkness. She was tall and wiry, her hair dyed a vivid green, a patchwork of tattoos running down her arms. "You made it," she said, handing him a data chip. "This is everything I could pull from the relay logs. Whoever's behind this, they're good. Military-grade encryption, multiple proxies. But there's a signature buried in the code. Look." Timo slotted the chip into his pad, fingers flying over the interface. Lines of code scrolled past, resolving into a series of coordinates and names, ships, stations, people, and at the bottom a single word. "Fracture." "Fracture protocol," Timo breathed. "I've seen references to this in the Union archives. It's supposed to be a failsafe, something to trigger if the Alliance ever broke down." Ryle nodded, grimly. "Except this isn't a failsafe. It's a weapon. Someone's using it to pit us against each other." A shout echoed from the entrance. Timo looked up to see a squad of armed figures moving through the shadows, their armor unmarked, faces hidden behind mirrored visors. "Go," Rail hissed, shoving him toward a side door. "I'll cover you." Timo hesitated, but Ryle was already moving, drawing a compact blaster from her belt. She fired a warning shot, the energy bolt sizzling past the nearest attacker. Chaos erupted as the squad returned fire and Timo slipped through the door, sprinting into the rain-soaked night. He ran blindly, heart hammering, the data chip clutched tight in his hand. He ducked into a service tunnel, the hum of generators echoing off the damp walls. Behind him, footsteps pounded, voices shouting in a language he didn't recognize. He reached a maintenance hatch and scrambled inside, sealing it behind him. For a moment he allowed himself to breathe, to process what he'd just seen. The data on the chip was explosive, Proof that the war wasn't an accident, but a carefully orchestrated plan. His comm buzzed again. This time the voice was unfamiliar, cold and mechanical. "Mr. Varian, you have something that does not belong to you." Timo froze. "Who is this?" "Return the data," the voice said, "or you will not leave this city alive." Timo's mind raced. He had to get the information off-world, to someone who could act on it. But who could he trust? The Union was compromised, and Earth had gone dark. He thought of the old contacts he'd made over the years. Smugglers, journalists, diplomats. Maybe one of them could help. He accessed a secure channel, sending a coded message to the only person he could think of. Ambassador Rian Solis. He didn't know if the message would get through, but it was his only shot. Then he set to work decrypting the rest of the data. As he worked, pieces began to fall into place. A list of targets, both human and alien, marked for removal. False flag operations designed to provoke retaliation. Financial transactions routed through shell companies on half a dozen worlds. And at the center, a shadowy organization known only as the Threshold. The more Timo uncovered, the more terrified he became. This wasn't just a rogue faction or a criminal syndicate, it was something deeper, older. A cabal with roots in both human and Union societies, manipulating events from the shadows. He finished decrypting the last file just as the maintenance hatch shuddered. Someone was trying to force it open. Timo grabbed his pad and the data chip, slipping through a narrow vent into the crawlspace above. He moved quickly, guided by the map in his head, emerging in a deserted warehouse on the edge of the city. He made his way to the docks, where ships from 100 worlds came and went at all hours. He approached a battered freighter, its hull scarred by years of hard travel. The captain, a grizzled old trader named Hest, eyed him warily. "What do you want, kid?" "Passage off-world," Timo said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I can pay and I have information. Important information." Hest snorted. "Everyone's got information these days." Timo leaned in, lowering his voice. "This is different. It's about the war, about who's really behind it." Hest's eyes narrowed. "Get in. But if you bring trouble to my ship, I'll space you myself." The freighter lifted off minutes later, engines rumbling as it broke through the cloud cover. Timo watched the city recede below, lights flickering in the Yao rain. He felt a pang of guilt for leaving Ryle behind, but he knew she could take care of herself. In the cramped quarters of the freighter, Timo pored over the data again, searching for anything he'd missed. One file caught his eye, a series of intercepted transmissions between high-ranking officials on both sides. The language was coded, but the intent was clear. Escalate tensions, sabotage peace efforts, eliminate anyone who got too close to the truth. As the freighter jumped to hyperspace, Timo sent another message, this time to Captain Zara El Masri of the Ember's Edge. He included a fragment of the data as proof, hoping it would be enough to convince her. The journey was tense, the crew on edge as news of the escalating conflict filtered in. Trade routes were collapsing, borders hardening. Rumors spread of entire worlds going dark, fleets vanishing without a trace. Timo kept to himself, working late into the night, piecing together the puzzle. He realized that the Threshold wasn't just manipulating events. They were preparing for something bigger. A galactic reset, a chance to seize power in the chaos. He finally slept, dreams haunted by images of burning ships and shattered alliances. He woke to the sound of alarms. The freighter had been intercepted by a Union patrol, their ships bristling with weapons. "All hands prepare for inspection," Hest barked, glaring at Timo. "If this is your fault, kid," Timo swallowed hard, clutching the data chip. Had to get it off the ship, or everything would be lost. As the patrol boarded, Timo slipped away, blending into the chaos. He made his way to the cargo hold where he found a maintenance droid idling in the corner. "Override protocol," he whispered, tapping a sequence into his pad. The droid's eyes flickered, and it extended a compartment. Timo slid the data chip inside. "If I don't make it, get this to Ambassador Solis, Priority Alpha." The droid whirred in acknowledgement, then trundled off toward the escape pods. Timo turned to find himself face to face with one of the patrol officers, her weapon raised. "Hands where I can see them," she barked. Timo complied, heart racing. "I'm just a passenger, I have nothing to hide." The officer searched him, finding nothing. She glanced at her scanner, then nodded. "Clear, move along." Timo exhaled in relief, slipping back into the shadows. He watched as the droid launched itself into space, a tiny beacon carrying the truth. The inspection ended, and the freighter was allowed to continue. Timo found Hest in the cockpit, grumbling about lost time. "You owe me for this," the captain said. "If we make it through, I'll make sure you're paid," Timo replied. As the freighter approached its destination, a remote outpost on the edge of Union space, Timo received a reply. It was a simple message, but it gave him hope. Message: received, help is coming. He knew it wasn't over. The threshold would come for him, and for anyone who tried to expose them. But for the first time, Timo felt a sense of purpose. He wasn't just a watcher anymore. He was a player in the greatest game the galaxy had ever seen. As the stars wheeled overhead, Timo Varian prepared for the next move, determined to see the truth revealed no matter the cost. The Vayari High Council chamber was a marvel of living crystal and flowing light, but tonight its beauty was lost on Celine. She stood at the central dais, her silhouette framed by the swirling auroras of Vayari Prime's sky, and listened as the voices of a dozen worlds crashed over her like a tidal wave. "The humans have gone mad," thundered Minister Jal of the Orion Pact, his wings quivering with agitation. "They cut contact, sabotage our networks, and now their fleets vanish from our sensors. This is war, Chancellor, whether you wish it or not." Celine's silvered eyes flicked to the next speaker, a representative of the Shalkai whose tendrils writhed in distress. "We must not escalate. There are still voices of reason among them. We have to find a way to re-establish dialogue." The chamber erupted in overlapping demands, accusations, and pleas. Celine let it wash over her for a moment, then raised her hand. The room fell silent, the light in the crystal walls dimming to a somber blue. "We stand on the brink," Celine said, her voice calm but resolute. "If we allow fear to rule us, the galaxy will burn. I will not let that happen." She turned to her aide, a young Vayari named Sira, who handed her a data slate. "The latest reports, Chancellor," Sira whispered. "The border worlds are mobilizing. Our intelligence confirms that the human fleet is in full blackout. We have no idea what they're planning." Celine nodded, her mind racing. She had spent her life navigating the labyrinth of galactic politics, but never had the stakes been so high. She tapped the slate, scrolling through the latest communiques. Panic on the trade worlds, riots on the rim, and everywhere. Rumors of a shadowy cabal pulling the strings. "Prepare a secure channel to the Union Council," Celine ordered, "and get me everything we have on this so-called threshold." As Sira hurried away, Celine allowed herself a rare moment of doubt. Was it already too late? Had the fractures grown too deep to mend? Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime. A priority message routed through a dozen proxies. Celine recognized the encryption. It was from Timo Varian, the analyst who had risked everything to expose the conspiracy. She read the message twice, her heart sinking with each line. The threshold was real. They had agents on every side manipulating events, sabotaging peace. And now, with the galaxy on the verge of war, they were preparing to make their move. Celine summoned her inner council, her most trusted advisors, drawn from every corner of the alliance. They gathered in the shadowed alcoves of the chamber, their faces grim. "We have been played," Celine said, her voice low. "The threshold wants war. They have infiltrated our governments, our fleets, even our intelligence services. If we do not act now, we will lose everything." "What can we do?" asked General Vorn, his scales glinting in the dim light. "The humans will not talk to us. Our own people are demanding action." Selena's eyes narrowed. "Then we must force the truth into the open. We need undeniable proof, something that will shatter the threshold's control and give both sides a reason to pause." She turned to Syra. "Find Ambassador Ryan Solis. He is the key." and reach out to Captain Azara El-Masri. If the Ember's Edge is still operational, she may have the evidence we need. As her team scattered, Celine activated her private comm. The line crackled, then resolved into the weary face of Ryan Solis. "Chancellor," Rian said, his voice hoarse. "I assume you've seen the latest." "I have," Celine replied, "and I believe you. But belief is not enough. We need proof." "Can you deliver?" Ryan hesitated, then nodded. "I have a data chip, evidence of the thresholds, operations, but I'm being hunted. I'll need help to get it to you." "Where are you?" Celine asked. "Orion's lower docks, Pier 17. Celine relayed the coordinates to her security chief. "Dispatch a team. Bring him in alive." She ended the call and turned her attention to the next task, reaching Zara El-Masri. The Ember's Edge was last seen near the Vayari border, evading Union patrols. Celine sent a coded message praying it would reach its target. As the hours dragged on, reports of violence spread. Skirmishes erupted on the rim, ships vanished without a trace, and the Union Council teetered on the edge of collapse. Celine worked tirelessly, coordinating relief efforts, quelling riots, and searching for any sign of hope. Finally, word came. Ryan had been secured. He arrived at the council chamber, battered but alive, the data chip clutched in his hand. "Thank you, Chancellor," he said, collapsing into a chair. This is everything. Transmissions, financial records, orders, proof that the threshold engineered the crisis." Celine took the chip, her hands trembling. "We must act quickly. If the threshold suspects we have this, they will strike." At that moment, the chamber's alarms blared. Sira rushed in, her face pale. "Chancellor, we have a breach. Union security forces led by a rogue admiral. They're demanding access to the Council's archives." Celine's mind raced. The threshold was making its move, trying to destroy the evidence before it could be used. "Seal the chamber," she ordered. "General Vorn, take a squad and hold the archives. Sira, get this data to our intelligence director now." As chaos erupted outside, Celine stood at the center of the storm, her resolve hardening. She would not let the galaxy fall to shadow. The next hours were a blur of action. Vorn's squad held the archives against wave after wave of attackers buying precious time. Sira raced through the Council's labyrinthine corridors, the data chip hidden in her robes. And Celine coordinated the defense, her voice a beacon of calm amid the chaos. Finally, the data was uploaded to the Alliance's secure network. Within minutes, every major government fleet and news agency in the galaxy received the files. The truth was out. The reaction was immediate. As the evidence spread, the Threshold's agents were exposed. Governments purged their ranks, fleets turned on rogue commanders, and the tide of war slowed. Celine seized the moment. She called an emergency session of the Union Council, broadcasting her message across every channel. "The galaxy stands at a crossroads," she declared. "We have been manipulated, driven to the brink by those who profit from our fear. But we are not enemies. We are neighbors, partners, friends. Let us choose peace." The response was overwhelming. World after world pledged support for a ceasefire. Human and Union ships stood down, their weapons powering off. The Threshold, exposed and hunted, fled into the shadows. In the days that followed, Celine worked tirelessly to rebuild trust. She brokered new treaties, established joint task forces to root out the last remnants of the Threshold, and reopened diplomatic channels with Earth. She met with Rian, Zara, and Timo in person, thanking them for their courage. "You saved us all," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "The galaxy owes you a debt it can never repay." Rian smiled wearily. "We just did what we had to." Zara nodded. "Let's hope it's enough." Timo, ever the analyst, looked to the future. "There will always be those who seek to divide us. But now, at least, we know how to fight back." As the galaxy began to heal, Celine allowed herself a rare moment of hope. The Threshold had been defeated, but the scars would linger. It would take years, perhaps generations, to rebuild what had been lost. But for the first time in memory, the stars seemed a little brighter, and in the heart of the Vayari, Council chamber? Celine vowed to protect that fragile light no matter what darkness might come.